Here's the thing. I'm living in a novel. That's not even the weird part. The weird part is I'm sick to death of the system. In my last life, I was a seasoned reader of online fiction, which meant I'd spent the better part of my adult life being mentally tortured by the mechanical ding of 1,000 different story prompts. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have bonded with the billionaire patron system. Ding. The ultimate comeback system is at your service. It got so bad that the word ding gave me a kind of motion sickness. So when I woke up inside a modern-day fantasy novel I'd once read and realized I was Jake Collins, the broke loser about to be chosen by the almighty system, my first reaction wasn't joy. It was exhaustion. Jake Collins, swear that I would rather starve to death, jump off a bridge, whatever. I will not be the system's puppet in this life. My current digs were a shoebox apartment in a crumbling brick tenement, a room so small I could touch both walls just by stretching. It cost me $500 a month. That afternoon, I was lying on my lumpy mattress, debating whether to spring for the $1 a cup instant ramen downstairs or splurge on the $8 greasy burger combo. Knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed in the tiny space. I shuffled to the door in my worn-out flip-flops and opened it. A woman stood in the hallway. She wore a perfectly tailored black pantsuit and no jewelry, yet she radiated an unspoken pressure that made the air in the hallway feel 10 degrees cooler. Her face was a blank, impassive mask, and her eyes swept over my pathetic excuse for a room as if she were reading a financial statement. Alarm bells went off in my head. That vibe, that presence. This wasn't the landlord or a city social worker. She spoke, her voice as cold and sharp as her appearance. Jake Collins. That's me. I am your system. My brain short-circuited. I slowly started closing the door. Sorry, wrong apartment. A hand in a black leather glove pressed against the wood. The force wasn't overwhelming, but it was firm. I am not mistaken. I am a Vanguard Initiative Core, designation Alpha 001. You may refer to me as the guide. The woman continued, her expression unchanging. Host's current living conditions have been assessed as suboptimal. A starter package is now being dispersed. Please confirm receipt. She held out a sleek black card. I glanced down. It was minimalist, marked only with a gold emblem I didn't recognize. I was silent for 3 seconds. Have scammers gotten this intense? They were getting into cosplay now? A Vanguard Initiative? Alpha 001? Why not just say you're a Terminator sent from the future? I pushed the card back toward her, my tone sincere. Look, lady, I'm not sick. I don't need a cure. If you're short on cash, I've got $5 here. Go get yourself a sandwich. Don't starve. The woman's eyebrow twitched, a barely perceptible movement. It was the first hint of an expression I'd seen on her. She clearly hadn't expected this response. She retracted her hand, her voice as steady as ever. As per the protocol, I must complete the bonding process. This card contains $10,000. It is your seed capital. 10 grand. My heart skipped a beat. Do scams have this kind of budget now? They give you the money before they trick you. My guard went up even higher. If something seems too good to be true, it's because it's a trap. No thanks. I despise money. Can't stand the stuff, I said, striking a worldly, detached pose as I tried to shut the door again. Analysis of database suggests the host's refusal is rooted in a fundamental distrust of the system, she said, pulling out her phone and tapping the screen. A second later, my cheap, cracked smartphone buzzed. It was a text from my bank. Your Chase account ending in XXXX received a deposit via transfer on October 26th at 3:32 p.m. Amount, $10,000.00. Your new available balance is $10,003.50. I stared at the text, then at the woman. My brain felt like it was rebooting. That $3.50 had been everything I had in my name. Now there were a lot more zeros. She really sent the money? The woman, who called herself the guide, I later found out her name was Eleanor Vance, was silently observing my reaction. What she didn't know was that my shock wasn't from the sudden windfall. It was from the horrifying realization that she might not be a scammer. She was a bona fide lunatic. A rich, dangerously ill lunatic who genuinely believed she was a sentient AI from a video game. Those people are way more dangerous than scammers. Get tangled up with someone like that, and God knows what kind of trouble you'll be in. My survival instincts kicked into overdrive. I took a deep breath and looked at her with the most compassionate, pitying expression I could muster. Ma'am, life is about keeping your feet on the ground. Don't lose yourself in these fantasies. You're not a system, and I'm not a host. You're a good person. You deserve to live a real life. With that, I opened my banking app and transferred the $10,000 right back to the account it came from. Your transfer of $10,000 was successful. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Goodbye, trouble. I looked up, only to see that the expression in Eleanor's eyes had changed. It was a bizarre mix of surprise, approval, and was that a flicker of fanaticism? She took out her phone again, her fingers flying across the screen. My stomach dropped. She wasn't going to call the cops and say I was harassing her, was she? My phone buzzed again. Your Chase account ending in XXXX received a deposit via transfer on October 26th at 3:35 p.m. Amount, $100,000.00. Your new available balance is $100,003.50. $100,000. I was completely dumbfounded. Eleanor put her phone away, her voice laced with an unprecedented gravity. Host has been detected to possess a rare anti-wealth constitution. Rejection of the starter package has triggered the hidden character trial mission. Congratulations, host. Trial passed. System privileges have been upgraded. Seed capital has been increased to $100,000. Jake Collins, you are exactly the one I've been searching for. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I looked at the long string of zeros on my phone, then at her stoic face, which screamed, "You have not disappointed me." I was screwed. I just got myself mixed up with a whole new level of crazy. In the end, I couldn't return the $100,000. Eleanor had somehow designated my account as a subsidiary or something, giving me receiving privileges only. I couldn't transfer anything out. She left me with one final command: utilize these funds. Prepare for the next phase of the mission. Then she and her assistant, a sharp-looking guy in gold-rimmed glasses, turned and left. I collapsed onto my bed, staring at the yellow water stain on the ceiling, my entire worldview shaken. Me, a staunch anti-system crusader, had just been force-fed $100,000 by a woman who thought she was an AI. What kind of messed up reality was this? I ran my hands through my hair in frustration. I couldn't just sit back and take this. I had to find a way to make her see how absurd this all was, to make her voluntarily give up on me as her host. But how? With money in hand, the first order of business was to get out of that dump. I spent a day finding a new place, a furnished 2-bedroom apartment in a high-end building downtown. The moment I sank into the plush, queen-sized bed, the anxiety from the $100,000 seemed to melt away just a little. Whatever. The money was mine now. Might as well spend it. If she ever came to her senses and wanted it back, I'd just get a job and pay her back slowly. Embracing this new what-the-hell attitude, I began my life as a professional slacker. I slept in until noon, ordered the most expensive food delivery, and played video games with the central air blasting. I figured if I acted lazy enough, wasteful enough, she'd realize I wasn't some chosen one. I was just a regular guy with zero ambition. I was, of course, far too naive. A week later, my doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole. It was Eleanor and her assistant again. I braced myself and opened the door. "So what's the new directive from HQ, system?" I asked, not bothering to hide my annoyance. Eleanor's gaze swept over my tastefully decorated living room and the expensive loungewear I had on, her expression still unreadable. According to backend data monitoring, the host has spent $32,000 in 1 week, primarily on improving living conditions and quality of life. The assistant behind her, Arthur, pushed his glasses up his nose. "Ms. Vance, my analysis suggests Mr. Collins' actions are not driven by a desire for luxury. He is building his foundation." I blinked. "Excuse me? Building my what now? I just wanted a comfortable place to live." Arthur continued his performance. "A stable environment is necessary to cultivate a grand vision. Mr. Collins understands this principle deeply. He is securing his base of operations before making any major moves. It's a sign of profound wisdom." Eleanor nodded in agreement. She looked at me with an expression that said, "I knew you were this brilliant." Host, your first phase mission, hiding in plain sight, has been completed with exceptional results. When did I ever accept that mission? You accepted it by default when you accepted the $100,000, she stated, giving me no room to argue. Now, I am issuing the second phase mission. Show your brilliance. And what does that mean? Within 1 month, you must make a name for yourself in a chosen field. My head was spinning. Lady, I'm just a normal guy. I don't have any special skills. It is a mission. Eleanor's tone was final. Complete it, and you will be handsomely rewarded. And if I don't, I challenged. There is no punishment, she said coolly, but you will lose my investment. With that, she turned to leave. I panicked. If this crazy woman walked away now, who was I going to reason with? I had to snap her out of it right now. In a moment of desperation, I pointed at her assistant. I think he'd be a much better host for you. Look at him. The glasses, the suit. He's obviously smarter and has more potential than me. The assistant, Arthur, froze. Eleanor stopped and turned back to look at me. Her expression was strange, a mix of scrutiny and contemplation. Arthur's face went pale. He looked at Eleanor, waving his hands frantically. Ms. Vance, I had no such intention. I am completely loyal to the company, I swear. I smirked internally. Yes, that's it. Make her doubt the people around her. Make her realize this little system game of hers is no fun at all. Eleanor was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. You're testing him? I said. You're testing his loyalty, Eleanor said, her voice filled with the certainty of a sudden revelation. A competent guide cannot have disloyal members in her retinue. You're using this method to help me vet my team. She turned to the assistant, who looked like he was about to burst into tears, and her voice dropped 3 degrees. Arthur, your reaction has been very disappointing. Arthur's knees buckled. Ms. Vance, do not let it happen again, she said, not looking at him. She turned her gaze back to me, the approval in her eyes practically overflowing. Jake, you have once again demonstrated your incredible foresight. You're not only planning your own future, but optimizing my team as well. She pulled out her phone and started tapping. Buzz. My phone vibrated. Your Chase account, ending in XXXX. Received a deposit via transfer. Amount, $200,000.00. $200,000. Eleanor pocketed her phone, a minuscule, almost imperceptible smile gracing her lips. This is an additional reward for optimizing the team. As for the show your brilliance mission, I have every confidence you will handle it. I look forward to your performance. She then strode away, leaving a shell-shocked Arthur to scramble after her. I stood alone in my doorway, clutching my buzzing phone, feeling the world spin around me. I was just trying to get fired as her host. How did that turn into me helping her with corporate restructuring? What is wrong with this world? I decided to go on the offensive. Since letting her discover my mediocrity on her own wasn't working, I would have to create a situation where she couldn't possibly misinterpret my failure. Show your brilliance, huh? Fine. I'll show you the biggest, most brilliant failure you've ever seen. I spent 2 days and the better part of $300,000 on a single project. I registered a company. I called it the Wing It Corporation. Its business scope, everything legal. Then, using the company's funds, I bought out the ad space on the top floor of a skyscraper in the heart of the downtown business district for 1 month. The ad was simple. 1 line of massive text. The Wing It Corporation. Seeking partners in financial ruin. Below was my personal cell number. The ad went up, and the city went nuts. Everyone assumed it was some rich kid's prank. My phone blew up with calls, people laughing at me, people who were curious, people who claimed they were experts at losing money. I ignored them all. I was waiting for 1 call, and 1 call only, Eleanor's. I pictured the look on her face when she saw it. That icy expression would finally crack. She would see that I was just wasting her investment, that I was a complete joke, that she would get angry, disappointed, and finally, she would cut me off and take back her money. Perfect. On the 3rd day, the call finally came. I cleared my throat, ready to face her wrath. But the line was silent. After a long pause, Eleanor finally spoke, her voice laced with a complex emotion I couldn't decipher. Why did you do this? Why did I do what? I feigned ignorance. I'm showing my brilliance. Look, the whole city is talking about the Wing It Corporation. You can't say I haven't made a name for myself, right? Your goal isn't fame, she said with utter conviction. Then what is it? You're filtering. My stomach dropped. Here we go again. The mental gymnastics were starting. You're using the most unorthodox, most ostentatious method possible to filter for the truly exceptional. Eleanor's voice was trembling slightly. Was that excitement? When everyone else sees you as a joke, the one person who sees through your charade and dares to contact you will be the partner you're truly looking for. You're not hiring an employee. You're searching for a future co-founder. I was speechless. Lady, your imagination is out of control. I was literally just trying to screw this up. Whatever you say, I mumbled, giving up. Have you found him? She asked. Found who? The partner. Nope, just a bunch of weirdos. I said honestly. The line went silent again. Just when I thought she was finally going to give up on me, she said, I understand, and hung up. I stared at my phone, completely bewildered. What do you understand? Half an hour later, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. Hello. Hello, Mr. Collins. I saw your advertisement. A calm, articulate male voice said. I'm very interested in your plan for financial ruin. My spirits lifted. Finally, a seemingly normal applicant, even if he was applying to lose money. Oh, tell me more. I believe the fastest way for a company to lose money is to invest in a sector that looks incredibly promising on the surface, but is actually filled with fatal traps. For example, the current hype around the metaverse. He spoke with authority, analyzing technological bottlenecks and market risks. I listened with growing excitement. This guy was a genius. If I made him CEO, the company would be bankrupt in 3 months tops. Excellent. You're hired. Report to my office tomorrow morning. I said enthusiastically. Mr. Collins, I have one small request. Name it. I'll need $5 million in startup capital to acquire a VR technology firm that holds a key patent but is on the verge of financial collapse. I hesitated. $5 million was a lot, but then I thought about it. The goal was to lose money. Investing in a project that sounded this doomed was perfect. No problem. The money will be in your account by tomorrow. I hung up, feeling ecstatic. The plan was working. The next day, the man, Leo Evans, arrived on time at the empty office of the Wing It Corporation. I was the only one there. Without wasting a moment, I transferred the remaining $200,000 to him and promised the rest would be on its way soon. Leo looked at the transfer notification on his phone, his eyes filled with emotion. He gave me a deep bow. Mr. Collins, you have my word. I will not let you down. I clapped him on the shoulder. Go get him. I believe in you. And I believe you'll run this company into the ground. After sending Leo off, I immediately called Eleanor. Hey, Ms. System, I found my partner. I've also invested in a project and need some more capital. How much? Let's start with $5 million, I said, shooting for the moon. Done. Her reply was instantaneous, without a hint of hesitation. That made me a little uneasy. Shouldn't she be questioning my investment strategy? She was just handing over the money that easily. Eleanor had no idea that at that very moment, she was standing in her office, looking out the floor-to-ceiling window at the city below. Her assistant, Arthur, stood behind her, holding a file. Ms. Vance, we've looked into it. This Leo Evans is one of the top VR experts in the country. He started his own company 3 years ago, but it ran into trouble because he was too idealistic. The patent he holds for a fully immersive neural interface is considered by industry experts to be at least a decade ahead of its time. No one dared to invest. Our people had already approached him before he contacted Mr. Collins. Eleanor nodded, the corner of her mouth twitching into a barely perceptible smile. Jake, he saw right through my intentions. Arthur looked at her with pure admiration. It's incredible, Ms. Vance, you only gave him a subtle hint, and Mr. Collins immediately understood that you wanted to use him as a proxy to invest in cutting-edge projects we couldn't be seen backing directly. This Leo Evans is the perfect example. He's not just helping me, Eleanor said. He's playing a much bigger game. He's using the most unconventional methods to gather the world's most brilliant misfits. Leo is just the first. She turned around, her eyes shining with an unprecedented light. Call the finance department. Inject $100 million into Mr. Colin's company. 100 million. Arthur's hand trembled. That's right, Eleanor said, her gaze fixed on the billboard outside. My host. His journey is to the stars. This is just the beginning. And me? When I received the text notification for a $100 million deposit, I was in the middle of eating a cup of instant ramen. Puffed. I sprayed a mouthful of broth all over the opposite wall. I stared at the string of zeros on my phone screen, my hand starting to shake. This wasn't how the script was supposed to go. I was trying to self-destruct. How did I end up with a 9-figure valuation? I decided to come clean. This time for real. I couldn't let this woman and her insane delusions drag me any further. If this kept up, I'd actually end up being hailed as some kind of visionary or business prodigy, and then I'd never be able to get off that pedestal. I asked Eleanor to meet me at a coffee shop downstairs from my office. To show how serious I was, I even put on a suit. It was a cheap $100 knockoff from a discount store, but I had to project an air of authority. Eleanor arrived on time, dressed in her usual all-black power suit, looking like a freshly sharpened sword. She sat down across from me. A waiter came to take our order. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream, she said. Ice water with extra lemon, I said. After the waiter left, I took a deep breath and got straight to the point. Eleanor, we need to talk. I'm listening, she said, taking a delicate sip of the water on the table. I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding between us. I chose my words carefully. First, I need to state for the record that I am not your host. Eleanor just looked at me, her expression calm and non-committal. Second, you are not a system. You're a real, living person and a very successful businesswoman at that. You shouldn't be indulging in this kind of role-playing game. I paused, my tone becoming more earnest. All the money you've given me, I'll find a way to pay it back. I'll dissolve my company. We could just pretend we never met, okay? I finished, my heart pounding. The coffee shop was quiet except for the soft background music. I watched her nervously, waiting for her reaction. Anger? Disappointment? A sudden moment of clarity? Eleanor set her glass down, the sound echoing lightly in the silence. She looked at me for a long time, so long that I thought she was about to flip the table and storm out. Then, she asked a completely unrelated question. Are you afraid? What? I was thrown off guard. I said, Are you afraid? She repeated, her gaze intense. Have you foreseen something? Is that why you're trying to back out? I was baffled. What new fanfiction was her brain writing now? I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to go back to being a normal person. No, you don't. Eleanor's voice was firm with conviction. From the moment you rejected the first payment, I knew you were different. You shunned fame and fortune because you know they come with a higher price. You started a company and acted in the most absurd way possible to mislead your enemies. You invested in Leo to lay the groundwork for the future. And now, you suddenly want to quit to cut all ties. She leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping to a low whisper. Jake, tell me, have you sensed a danger? A danger so great that even you are wary of it. My mouth hung open. I felt like my brain was no longer capable of processing her logic. Lady, an overactive imagination is a medical condition. You need help. Just as I was about to argue, the door to the coffee shop flew open, and several large men in black suits stormed in. The leader was a man with a prominent scar on his face and a vicious look in his eyes. He walked straight toward our table. The other customers gasped and scrambled to get out of the way. My stomach sank. Seriously? In broad daylight? The scar-faced man stopped at our table, his eyes glancing over me before settling on Eleanor. Ms. Vance, my boss would like a word, he said, his tone dripping with disrespect. Eleanor's expression turned icy. Marco, go back and tell your boss his tactics are pathetic. Then I guess we'll have to do this the hard way, he grunted, waving a hand. Two of his goons moved forward to grab Eleanor. My mind went blank. Acting on pure instinct, I shot to my feet and stood in front of her. Even though I wanted to be done with her, I couldn't just stand by and watch a woman get manhandled. What do you think you're doing? I'm calling the cops. I yelled, grabbing my glass of ice water like I was ready for a fight. Marco shot me a disdainful look. Get out of the way, pretty boy. This doesn't concern you. He threw a punch straight at my face. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the impact. Just then a cold, firm voice rang out behind me. Stop. It was Eleanor. Somehow, she was on her feet, holding a fork. One of those small dessert forks. She had the tines of the fork pressed against Marco's wrist. He froze. He looked down at his wrist, then back up at Eleanor, a look of disbelief on his face. Eleanor, you. I said, stop. Her voice was as cold as a glacier. You dare touch my people? Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried an authority that couldn't be defied. Beads of sweat formed on Marco's forehead. His men behind him were stunned into inaction. I stared at Eleanor's back, feeling like I was seeing her for the first time. Was this the same delusion-prone woman who was obsessed with her system game? In that moment, she looked less like a gamer and more like a queen. Marco gritted his teeth, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he slowly pulled his hand back, glaring at me. You got lucky, kid. With that, he and his men retreated, leaving as quickly as they had come. The coffee shop fell quiet again, but the tension remained. I was still reeling from what had just happened. Eleanor turned around and placed a fork back on the table. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions I'd never seen before. There was worry, fear, and a subtle, almost imperceptible tenderness. Are you okay? She asked. I shook my head, then pointed at the fork. What? What was that? Just a little self-defense, she said dismissively. I looked at her slender wrists, finding it impossible to connect her with a warrior who had just faced down a group of thugs. Now, do you still think this is just a game? She asked, looking me straight in the eye. I was silent. That scene had forced me to realize that Eleanor's world was far more complicated and dangerous than I had imagined. She wasn't playing a game. She was fighting something in her own strange way, and I, without realizing it, had been dragged right into the center of the storm. I opened my mouth, but my throat was dry. Jake, Eleanor interrupted. I know you have a lot of questions. For now, all I can tell you is this. I need you. Not as a host, but as a partner. She held out her hand to me. You asked me before if I had found my partner. Now I have. Her hand was there, right in front of me, steady and pale. I looked into her eyes. The coldness and distance were gone, replaced by sincerity and hope. My heart, completely against my will, skipped a beat. Slowly, I reached out and took her hand. It was warm, not the temperature of a system, the temperature of a person. The moment our hands clasped, I felt like I had just signed a contract with the devil. I gave up the struggle. I gave up on my so-called normal life. Maybe from the moment I woke up in this world, normal was never an option. On the way back, Eleanor's assistant, Arthur, drove while we sat in the back. The silence in the car was heavy. Who were those guys? I asked, breaking the quiet. A business rival, a sore loser who resorts to dirty tricks, Eleanor said, her tone flat, as if she were discussing the weather. Will they be back? Yes, she answered with certainty. But next time, their target will likely be you. A chill went down my spine. Why me? Because today, they saw that you were important to me. I shifted uncomfortably. That sounded weird. Therefore, until you are capable of defending yourself, you will require protection, Eleanor said, handing me a business card. It had a single name, Rex, and a phone number. He's my best security specialist. Starting tomorrow, he will be with you 24/7. Isn't that a bit much? I protested. Being followed around all day sounded awful. There'd be no freedom. This is not a negotiation. It is a notification. Her tone was back to being imperious and final. I pouted, but didn't argue further. The car pulled up in front of my apartment building. I got out and Eleanor followed. What are you doing? I asked. Seeing you to your door. You don't have to. It's just a few steps. It's not safe, she insisted. I couldn't win, so I let her walk with me. At my door, I fumbled for my keys. Eleanor stood behind me, just watching. So, I turned around. Thanks. For today. I was talking about the coffee shop. If it wasn't for her, I probably would have gotten my face rearranged. It's not necessary. Her expression softened slightly. Partners protect each other. Well, I'm going in. Okay. I opened the door, stepped inside, and closed it behind me. Outside, Eleanor didn't leave right away. She stood there for a moment, then took out her phone and opened the app she had named the Guide's Core Interface. The interface was clean, with only a few modules. Host status, secure current mission, none system level, LV3 store, locked emotional link. 0, awaiting establishment. She stared at the last item. Emotional link, lost in thought. Today, in the coffee shop, The moment Jake stood in front of her, the value in that module had flickered for the first time, rising from 0 to 0.1. It dropped back down almost immediately, but the change had unsettled her. This app was something she had developed herself a year ago after a high fever, piecing it together from fragmented memories of a dream. She was convinced it was her destiny, her mission to find the chosen one and guide him to greatness. And she had found Jake. Everything Jake did perfectly matched her vision of a transcendent, unconventional host. But today she had wavered. When Marco's fist flew toward Jake, what she felt wasn't an alert that a system asset was under threat. It was a visceral, gut-wrenching anger and fear. She didn't want him to get hurt. That was not an emotion a system was supposed to have. Behind her, Arthur saw her complicated expression and began his usual overanalysis. Ms. Vance, are you worried about Mr. Collins? Eleanor snapped back to reality, pocketing her phone and resuming her icy demeanor. I'm merely assessing risk. I understand. Arthur's face lit up with comprehension. You're concerned that your personal feelings toward Mr. Collins might compromise your judgment as the guide. That is indeed a significant risk. Eleanor shot him a look, said nothing, and walked toward the elevator. Arthur followed, chattering away. But rest assured, Ms. Vance, Mr. Collins is no ordinary man. His display of weakness today was a calculated move to force your hand. He wanted to see your capabilities. It was a brilliant display of feigning weakness to gain the upper hand. Genius, I tell you, pure genius. The elevator doors closed, cutting off Arthur's voice. Eleanor leaned against the cold metal wall, pressing her fingers to her temples. For the first time, she began to doubt her own judgment. Jay Collins, what kind of person are you, really? The next morning, my doorbell rang at the crack of dawn. I stumbled to the door, my hair a mess, my eyes half closed. Standing there was a mountain of a man, at least 6'4", wearing a tight black t-shirt that showed off every rippling muscle. He radiated a palpable don't mess with me aura. Mr. Collins, I'm Rex, he rumbled, his voice as imposing as his physique. I was suddenly wide awake. This was the bodyguard Eleanor sent? He was so conspicuous. I'd feel less safe walking around with him than I would by myself. Hi, I said, letting him in. He stood in my living room like a brick wall, making the spacious room feel cramped. Ms. Vance has instructed me to handle your round-the-clock security, effective immediately. What does round-the-clock mean? When you eat, I watch. When you sleep, I stand guard outside your door. I stared at him. What about when I go to the bathroom? Are you going to follow me in there, too? A muscle in Rex's stoic face twitched. In principle, I need to maintain a visual line of sight within a 5-meter radius. My vision went dark. How is this any different from being in prison? No way. Absolutely not. That's a massive invasion of my privacy. I protested vehemently. Those are Ms. Vance's orders, Rex replied, his voice unyielding as stone. Who's the boss here, me or her? Does she sign your paychecks or do I? I snapped. Ms. Vance does. I deflated. Right. Fine. Time for a softer approach. Rex, my man, look, we're both guys, right? Some things. How about this? You hang out in the living room. I'll be in the bedroom. We stay out of each other's way. Sound good? Rex considered it for a moment, then nodded. Acceptable, but you cannot lock the door. I had a compromise. The next few days were a strange form of cohabitation. While I played video games, Rex stood beside me like a statue. When I ordered takeout, he would test it with some kind of silver device for poison. While I went to sleep, he really did pull up a stool and sit outside my bedroom door like a gargoyle. I was going crazy. Then, one day, Leo called me, his voice trembling with excitement. Mr. Collins, we did it. We actually did it. Did what? I asked, confused. Our Genesis system. The initial tests were a success. The fully immersive neural link. It works. It took me a second to realize he was talking about his VR project. He already had results? Had he spent all the money I gave him? Was the company finally going bankrupt? I asked. So we need more funding to move on to the next phase. Clinical trials and hardware optimization. Mr. Collins, this is a world-changing breakthrough. We're about to create a whole new reality. Leo sounded like a true believer. My head was pounding. Create a new reality? I just wanted to shut this one down. How much money? At least 50 million. I gasped. Was he kidding me? I see. I'll see what I can do. I said evasively and hung up. Where was I going to get $50 million? All my money came from Eleanor. I couldn't ask her for more. If I did, this grand plan for financial ruin would turn into a Midas touch miracle. I had to find a way to make Leo's project fail. An idea sparked in my mind. I called Rex over. Rex, I have a mission for you. Sir, your orders? I need you to find someone for me. A hacker. The best you can find. A flicker of confusion crossed Rex's face, but he didn't ask questions. Understood. He was remarkably efficient. The next day, he brought back a skinny young man with black-framed glasses. He looked a bit scruffy, but his eyes were sharp. Mr. Collins, this is Ghost. He's the best in the business. I sized up the hacker. I need you to do something for me, I said, getting straight to the point. Hack into a company's server and delete their core source code. Ghost pushed up his glasses. Illegal activities cost extra. Money isn't an issue. I waved my hand. $1 million when the job is done. Ghost's eyes lit up. Which company? I gave him the information on Leo's firm. Genesis? Ghost glanced at the file and scoffed. I've seen a dozen of these vaporware companies. Don't worry. In 3 days, I'll send them back to the Stone Age. I nodded, satisfied, cutting them off at the knees. This had to be the end of it. I could already picture Leo calling me in tears, telling me the project was a failure and the company was bankrupt. However, I had once again underestimated the magical absurdity of this world. 3 days later, Ghost showed up at my door, bruised and battered. And Mr. Collins, that company, it's haunted, he stammered. What happened? I've never seen a firewall that insane. I got a dozen of the best guys I know to launch a coordinated attack, and we got completely wiped out. Their counter-tracking system dug up everything on me. If Rex hadn't gotten there when he did, I'd be gone. I was stunned. Leo's little startup was that powerful? What I didn't know was that the moment Ghost launched his attack, Eleanor's app had blared with a piercing alarm. Warning: unidentified data stream attacking core asset Genesis. Threat level S. Initiating highest level defense protocol. Activating Aegis system. Eleanor's eyes went cold. Beside her, Arthur paled. Ms. Vance, they're targeting Leo's project. The attack is overwhelming. Our tech team can't hold them off. Stay calm, Eleanor said, her fingers flying across her phone screen as she issued commands through the app. Switch to backup servers. Initiate data mirroring. Enable physical isolation. Trace the attack. Lock their location. Under her command, a silent war raged in cyberspace. 30 minutes later, the alarm ceased. Arthur wiped the sweat from his brow, still shaken. That was too close. Ms. Vance, they were good. A top-tier international hacking collective. Eleanor stared at the feedback on her app, lost in thought. Attack origin IP. Locked. Physical address. 345 Oak Street, App 7B. Arthur saw the address and gasped. That's Mr. Collins' address. Could it be someone close to him? Arthur's face turned grim. Eleanor didn't speak. She looked at the address, but the image in her mind was of Jake's face, always tinged with a lazy, exasperated air. Another test. Did he orchestrate this attack to test the capabilities of my Aegis defense system? Or was he trying to tell me there was a mole in his circle that I needed to eliminate? Eleanor's eyes grew brighter. She felt she had grasped the truth. Arthur. Yes, Ms. Vance. Investigate everyone Rex has been in contact with recently. Right away. And notify the finance department. Inject another $50 million into the wing at corporation. Arthur froze. Ms. Vance, why? The Genesis project has passed this stress test, proving its value. And this serves as an answer for Jake. She whispered the last part to herself. When my phone buzzed with the $50 million deposit notification, I was busy consoling the traumatized hacker, Ghost. I stared at the number, so long it made me dizzy and felt my soul leave my body. Why? Why was this happening? All I wanted to do was quietly lose some money. Why was it so damn hard? I got sick, a sickness of the soul. Looking at the 9-figure balance in my bank account didn't bring me joy. It was a crushing weight. The money felt like a mountain pressing down on me, suffocating me. I locked myself in my room and didn't come out for 3 days. Rex, thinking I was suicidal, almost broke down the door. I was just contemplating a single, profound philosophical question. How could I spend all this money, legally, reasonably, and in a way that Eleanor couldn't possibly misinterpret as some grand design? I thought about it for 3 days and 3 nights, and finally, I had a brilliant idea. Charity. Yes, charity. I would donate the money. Give it to people who needed it. There was no way that could be spun as a business strategy, right? It was a purely altruistic act. No matter how wild Eleanor's imagination was, she couldn't possibly connect charity with showing brilliance or building a business empire, could she? The more I thought about it, the more perfect it seemed. I leaped out of bed, feeling invigorated, and strode out of my room. Rex, who was standing guard, breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Collins, you're finally out. Rex, get ready. We're going out. Where to? To spend some money. I took Rex straight to the city's largest charitable foundation. The director, a middle-aged woman named Mrs. Davis, greeted me warmly. When I told her I wanted to make an anonymous donation of $10 million, her smile froze on her face. And Mr. Collins, how much did you say? $10 million, I repeated nonchalantly. A dead silence fell over the director's office. Her assistant dropped the cup she was holding, and it shattered on the floor. I was extremely pleased with their reaction. This was the effect I wanted. Shock, confusion, the belief that I was insane. Not like Eleanor, who always managed to find some profound meaning in my most ridiculous actions. The donation process was quick. As I signed the papers and watched my account balance drop by $10 million, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. My soul felt cleansed. Walking out of the foundation's building, the sun was shining and the air felt fresh. I felt like I was one step closer to my goal of being a normal person. I even had my speech prepared. When Eleanor came to confront me, I would tell her that I was just a kind-hearted person who couldn't bear to see suffering in the world. Money is fleeting. You can't take it with you. Let's see her try to overthink that. But Eleanor never came. Not a single call or text. It was unsettling. The calm before the storm? The next day, a news story broke that sent the entire city into a frenzy. Mysterious philanthropist donates $10 million to Heart of the City initiative. The report detailed how the massive donation would be used to launch the long-stalled Heart of the City project, a large-scale public welfare program aimed at providing free health care, elder care, and community services to the city's older, lower-income neighborhoods. And the original proponent and driving force behind this initiative? Eleanor Vance's company, the Vanguard Group. The project had been shelved by the board of directors due to its massive cost and lack of short-term commercial returns. Now, thanks to my $10 million gift from the heavens, the project was back on. At the press conference, Eleanor appeared as a representative of the Vanguard Group. A reporter asked her, Ms. Vance, what do you have to say about this mysterious benefactor's act of kindness? On the TV screen, Eleanor was wearing a white suit, her expression unusually soft. She looked in the camera and spoke slowly. I'm not surprised, because I know he has always been working, in his own way, to make the world a better place. This wasn't charity. This was an investment in the future. A future where everyone can grow old with dignity and receive care when they are sick. His vision is far beyond any of ours. Puffed. The soda I was drinking sprayed all over the screen. I collapsed onto the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling. I was wrong. I had been wrong from the very beginning. I had underestimated her ability to spin a narrative. This wasn't just overthinking anymore. This was creating an entire parallel universe. I donate money, and she interprets it as helping her push her agenda. I try to lose money, and she sees it as recruiting talent. I slack off, and she calls it hiding in plain sight. Was there anything in this world she couldn't reinterpret? My phone rang. It was Eleanor. With a trembling hand, I answered. Hello. Well done. Her voice on the other end was tinged with a smile. It was the first time I'd ever heard her sound so genuinely happy. That was a brilliant move. Not only did you revive the Heart of the City project, but you also neutralized the biggest opposition within my company. The board just voted unanimously to give me full control of the initiative. I was speechless. I wasn't, that's not what happened. No need to be modest. Eleanor's tone was light and cheerful. As a reward, I've had 15% of the project's equity transferred to your name. Once it's up and running, the annual dividends should be in the nine-figure range. My vision went black. I almost fainted. I donated $10 million. In return, she gave me a project stake that would pay out over $100 million a year. What was this? Charity with a cashback program. Eleanor, I finally roared into the phone. What do you want from me? I'm begging you, just leave me alone. The line went silent. After a long pause, Eleanor spoke again, her voice almost a sigh. Jake, I'm not trying to pressure you. I just want to stand by your side and watch the world you create, even if I'm just the most insignificant piece in your grand design. And then she hung up. I stood there, holding my phone, completely stunned. A piece of the puzzle? Lady, you're not a piece of the puzzle. You're the bane of my existence. I decided to run. I couldn't stay in this city anymore. If I did, Eleanor would somehow manage to make me the richest man in the world. My plan was meticulous. First, I had to ditch Rex, my shadow. I pretended I wanted to go for a walk and took him to the city's most crowded pedestrian mall. Then, using the chaos of the crowd, I ducked into a narrow alleyway, made a series of quick turns, and used every trick I'd ever learned from watching spy movies to lose him. Next, I went straight to the train station and bought a ticket to the most remote, forgotten town I could find on the map, a sleepy little place in rural Ohio. No seat, a 28-hour ride. Before I got on the train, I snapped my SIM card in half and threw in the trash. Goodbye, Eleanor. Goodbye, nine-figure bank account and stock equity. All I wanted was my instant ramen and a crappy little room. The train was packed, the air thick with the smell of instant noodles and sweat. I squeezed into a corner, leaning against the cold metal wall, listening to the cacophony of sounds around me. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. This was the messy, real world I knew. 28 hours later, I dragged my exhausted body off the train. The town was small and quiet. Perfect. I found a cheap motel that charged $30 a night. Then I went to the town's only internet cafe, ready to get back to my old gig, grinding in online games for a little cash. Just enough to get by. I thought my new life had finally begun. But on my second day, a friend from one of the games sent me a message. Dude, you're on TV. You're famous. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? The Financial News Network. They did a whole special, finding the next titan of industry. You're the star of the first episode. My hand started to shake. I clicked the link he sent. A slickly produced documentary popped up. It opened with a deep, dramatic voiceover. He is the most mysterious business genius of our time. He appeared from nowhere, using the most unbelievable methods to reshape the entire commercial landscape. He scoffs at wealth, giving away millions to build a dream for the future. He is the founder of the Wing It Corporation. Jake Collins. A pixelated version of my driver's license photo appeared on the screen. The show then began to recount my legendary achievements, from the founding of my ridiculous company to recruiting the brilliant Leo Evans to the $10 million donation that saved the heart of the city. Every single event was interpreted as a stroke of incomprehensible genius. Leo was on the show, tears in his eyes. Without Mr. Collins, there would be no Genesis. He is the mentor of my lifetime. Mrs. Davis from the foundation was there, her face full of awe. Mr. Collins' vision is the grandest I have ever witnessed. He is concerned with the future of our entire society. Even Ghost, the hacker I'd hired, made an appearance, his face blurred out. I have never faced such a formidable opponent. His strategy was flawless. I was thoroughly and completely outmaneuvered. The show ended with the host's booming conclusion. Jake Collins is like a comet, streaking across the dark sky of the business world. We have every reason to believe he will lead us into a new era. What miracles will this titan of industry create next? The world is watching. I closed the video, my face ashen. It was over. It was all over. Not only had I failed to escape, but I had been upgraded from a local oddity to a national icon. I knew exactly who was behind this. Eleanor. She had used the power of the media to turn me into a business messiah. She was cutting off every possible escape route. I slumped in the cheap plastic chair, the world spinning around me. Just then, a man in a black suit walked up to my computer. It was Arthur. He gave me a respectful bow. Mr. Collins, Ms. Vance has asked you to come back. I looked at him and started to laugh. It was a hollow, broken sound. Go back. There's nothing to go back to. I pointed at the pixelated image of my face on the screen. The whole country knows who I am now. Where could I possibly go? Ms. Vance said your destiny was always among the stars. A small town could never hold you. What else did she say? I asked through gritted teeth. Arthur pushed his glasses up. The screen's light glinted off the lenses. She said she knew you would come here. I froze. How did she know? Because this internet cafe, along with every other business in this town, was acquired by the Vanguard Group 3 days ago. Ms. Vance said she is happy to play the hiding in plain sight game with you. Wherever you go, she will build your starter village there until you are ready to come home. My vision went black and I passed out. I was escorted back on Eleanor's private jet. We sat across from each other, the silence stretching for the entire flight. I was tired. Just let the world end. I was done fighting. I gave up all resistance and went completely limp. Think what you want, spin it however you want. I'm done. Back in the city, I wasn't taken to my fancy apartment. I was driven to an estate, a literal estate, with manicured lawns, a private lake, and a full staff of butlers and servants. Where are we? I asked Arthur. Mr. Collins, this is Ms. Vance's gift to you. Your new home. I was numb. Where is she? Ms. Vance had to attend to an urgent matter at the office. I walked into a house that was more like a castle. An old butler in a tuxedo greeted me at the door. Mr. Collins, lunch has been prepared for you. I looked at the impossibly long dining table, laden with exquisite dishes, and felt zero appetite. Just give me a cup of instant ramen, I said. The butler froze. With a hot dog and a hard-boiled egg, I added. In the end, I didn't get my ramen. The butler, citing health concerns, politely but firmly refused my request. I felt like a bird trapped in a golden cage. That evening, Eleanor came back. She had changed out of her suit jacket and was wearing a simple white silk blouse, her hair loosely pinned up. She looked less like a CEO and more soft. She sat down at the dining table and gestured for me to join her. We need to talk, she said. Let's, I said, my face a mask of indifference. What am I this time? The savior of humanity? The emperor of the galaxy? She ignored my sarcasm. Her gaze was serious. Jake, do you really think everything I've done is to pressure you? What else would you call it? You turned me into a celebrity, made a public spectacle of me, and now you've got me under house arrest. If that's not pressure, is it your idea of a loving embrace? House arrest. Eleanor frowned. I was trying to protect you. Well, you succeeded, I sneered. I'm as safe as a national treasure. I can't even go to the bathroom without an 8-man security detail. Eleanor fell silent. She seemed genuinely surprised that I saw her protection this way. Was I wrong? She asked quietly. She sounded like a child who had made a mistake, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. I looked at her, and for a second, my resolve softened. But I hardened it again. I couldn't let her pull me off track. You're not wrong. I shook my head. You're just deeply, deeply unwell. I am not unwell, she retorted, a new urgency in her voice. My core interface. It tells me I'm doing the right thing. Then your core interface can go to hell. I finally exploded. Eleanor, look at me. I stood up, walked over to her, and leaned over the table, my hands planted on either side of her. Tell me, who are you? Are you a person with blood and flesh who can laugh and cry? Or are you just a cold program executing a set of commands? We were close. I could smell the faint, clean scent of her perfume. I could see her long eyelashes trembling. For the first time, her eyes showed a flicker of panic. I'm the guide, she stammered. Oh yeah. I reached out and gently touched her cheek. Her skin was cool but soft. Her whole body went rigid. Does a program have body heat? I asked. Does a program get jealous when I talk to another woman for 5 minutes? Eleanor's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. It started at her cheeks and spread all the way to the tips of her ears. I did not. She shoved me away, jumping to her feet and avoiding my eyes. That charity gala last month. I was chatting with that actress, and the next day, her new project mysteriously lost all its funding. Why? I pressed, stepping closer. That was a business decision, right? And when I ran away to that small town, You bought the entire town. Was that also a business decision? I. She was at a loss for words. I looked at her, flustered and cornered, and suddenly found it amusing. So the iceberg could melt. I sighed, my voice softening. Eleanor, stop lying to yourself. You're not a system, and I'm not a host. You're just a lonely, stubborn, brilliant girl who doesn't know how to connect with people. Eleanor stared at me, her eyes slowly welling up. Tears gathered, but she fought stubbornly to keep them from falling. I'm not, she insisted, but her voice was thick with emotion. Seeing her like this, my last wall of defense crumbled. I stepped forward and gently pulled her into a hug. Her body was stiff, but she didn't push me away. Okay, I'll stop teasing you, I said softly, rubbing her back. I don't care if you're a system or a person. I'm in. It's not like I can escape you anyway, right? In my arms, her body slowly relaxed. She buried her face in my chest, her shoulders shaking slightly. After a long moment, I heard a muffled, nasal mom. It was as quiet as a whisper. I smiled. It seemed the iceberg had finally started to thaw. My relationship with Eleanor entered a strange new phase. We weren't exactly a couple. The hug was the most intimate we'd been, but I wasn't her kept man either. She gave me an incredible amount of freedom. The security at the estate was gone, leaving just the old butler and a few housekeepers. The restrictions on my bank account were lifted. I could do whatever I wanted with the fortune she'd given me. She seemed to be genuinely trying to change. She stopped using words like system and host, though she still reflexively opened her app to check my status. She stopped giving me missions and instead would occasionally ask, in a roundabout way, what my plans were for the future. What plans could I have? My only plan was to do absolutely nothing. But now, with Eleanor in the picture, that plan seemed like it needed an update. One day, I was fishing by the lake when she walked over. She had swapped her black suit for a white sundress, her long hair flowing over her shoulders. In the sunlight, she was almost ethereal. What are you thinking about? She asked, sitting down beside me. About when the fish are going to bite. And if they never bite, will you just wait forever? I glanced at her, knowing this was another one of her allegories. No, I said, shaking my head. I'd move to a different spot, or just go to the market and buy one. Eleanor's eyes lit up. So, you're not the type to stubbornly wait for something that isn't coming. Depends, I said, putting my fishing rod down. Some things are worth waiting for. Some aren't. What about me? She asked suddenly, her voice barely a whisper. Am I worth waiting for? I froze. This was not the Eleanor I knew. She was being far too direct. I looked at her face, so close to mine. Her cool, clear eyes were perfect mirrors, reflecting my own stunned expression. My heart started to beat a little too fast. Ahem. I cleared my throat, desperate to change the subject. You're not busy today? No work at the office? One must always make time for the important people in one's life, she said, her words dropping like pebbles into the still water of my heart. I couldn't handle this. When this woman wasn't in system mode, her power level was off the charts. I'm going to go check on dinner, I said, practically fleeing. As she watched my hasty retreat, a small, triumphant smile played on Eleanor's lips. She took out her phone and opened her app. Emotional link, 60, rising steadily new function unlocked. Emotional strategy module, beginner. Module suggestion. Proactive engagement can effectively increase link index. She read the suggestion and nodded, satisfied. So this was what falling in love felt like. It was not bad. That night, after dinner, Eleanor suggested we go for a walk. We strolled along the path that wound through the estate gardens. The summer night air was cool and sweet. Jake, she said, breaking the silence. Yeah. What kind of woman? Do you like? I stopped and gave her a strange look. Why are you asking? Curiosity. I've never really thought about it, I said honestly. In my last life, I was single. In this one, I've been too busy trying to fail. Well, think about it now, she insisted. I thought for a moment, then answered off the cuff. I guess. Someone gentle, considerate, not so intense. Someone who wouldn't try to change me, who'd just let me be lazy in peace. After I spoke, I snuck a look at her. Just as I expected, her expression had darkened. I had just listed everything she wasn't. I felt a little smug, hoping to knock her down a peg. But she was just silent for a moment, then nodded. I see. That was it? No argument? No anger? That wasn't like her at all. From that day on, Eleanor really did change. She stopped making demands. She stopped asking about my company. She started learning to cook, though her first attempt nearly burned down the kitchen. She started wearing brighter colors. Her expression was still stoic, but she seemed softer. She even smiled at me. It was a stiff, barely there smile, but it was a smile. Watching her, I felt a mix of emotions. I was touched, but also, my heart ached for her. She was a queen, a titan of industry, and here she was trying to contort herself into someone else for my sake. Was I really worth all that? One day, Leo burst in with explosive news. Mr. Collins, the military, they're interested in the Genesis system. His face was flushed with excitement. They want to partner with us to develop a military-grade version for their next-gen soldier systems and drone swarm command and control. My blood ran cold. How had things escalated this far? I just wanted to lose some money, and now I was tangled up with the Department of Defense. This is the best news we could have hoped for, Mr. Collins. Leo was still beaming. This is validation from the highest level. Our technology is going to change the world. I didn't feel happy at all. I had a feeling that much bigger trouble was on its way. And sure enough, not long after, an unexpected visitor showed up. It was Marco, the scar-faced thug from the coffee shop. But this time, he wasn't looking for a fight. He came alone, and his attitude was so respectful it was almost groveling. Mr. Collins, my employer would like to discuss a business proposition with you. I have nothing to discuss with you or your employer, I said coldly. No, please, just hear me out, Marco said quickly. My employer represents a very powerful overseas tech investment firm. He's extremely interested in your Genesis system and is willing to offer $10 billion for a 50% stake in your company. $10 billion. I have to admit, I was tempted. If I sold the shares, I could cash out and walk away with an obscene amount of money. I'd be free of Genesis, this project that had become an albatross around my neck. I could take the money, disappear to some remote island, and live out my dream of being a professional beach bum. But an image of Eleanor's face, of her trying so hard to smile for me, flashed in my mind. What would happen to her if I did that? She had invested so much in me, and I would be betraying her on the one project she valued most. So what do you say, Mr. Collins? It's the opportunity of a lifetime, Marco pressed, seeing my hesitation. I took a deep breath, about to speak. A voice, cold as ice, came from behind me. You think his shares are only worth $10 billion. Did you ask for my permission? It was Eleanor. She was standing right behind me. Her face had reverted to that impenetrable, frosty mask. Her eyes were colder than a Siberian winter. Marco's face fell the moment he saw her. MMS, Vance, what are you doing here? This is my home. Why shouldn't I be here? Eleanor walked slowly to my side, her gaze like a razor on Marco's face. Take your money and get out. Ms. Vance, my employer is very serious about this partnership. I said get out. Her voice was quiet, but it held an absolute, unshakable authority. Sweat beaded on Marco's forehead. He looked from me to Eleanor, then gritted his teeth and made a hasty, undignified exit. The living room was silent again. The air was thick with a terrifying tension. When did you get back? I asked just to say something. She didn't answer. She just stared at me, her eyes filled with a raw disappointment and pain I had never seen before. You hesitated. Her voice was trembling. For money, you were actually going to sell me out? Sell out Leo? Sell out everyone's hard work to God knows who? No, I denied it instinctively. You were just considering it, weren't you? She cut me off, a bitter, self-mocking smile on her face. I was such a fool. I thought I actually meant something to you. I thought we were partners. But I guess when $10 billion is on the table, none of that matters. A tear finally escaped and rolled down her cheek. It was like a pearl from a broken string, and it hit my heart with a physical force. I panicked. No, Eleanor, that's not it. Let me explain. I reached for her hand, but she violently pulled it away. Don't touch me. She took a step back like a wounded animal, every defense raised. Jake, I was so wrong about you. With that, she turned and ran out of the house. I stood there, frozen, watching her disappear. My chest felt hollowed out. It was over. This time, I had really, truly screwed up. For the next few days, Eleanor didn't come back to the estate. I called her. She didn't answer. I texted her. No reply. I went to her office, but Arthur blocked the door, telling me, Ms. Vance doesn't wish to see you. For the first time, I understood what it felt like to be truly frantic. All I could see was her crying face. All I could hear were her words. I was so wrong about you. I realized I couldn't live without her. Without her there to interpret my every move through her bizarre system logic, my world felt incomplete. I couldn't lose her. I had to do something. I want to see Leo. Leo, I need you to do something for me. Anything, Mr. Collins. I need you to arrange a press conference. 3 days later, the Wing It Corporation's press conference was broadcast live across every major news network. I stood alone under the bright lights, wearing a proper suit, facing a sea of cameras and microphones. Mr. Collins, what is your response to the $10 billion acquisition offer? Mr. Collins, will you be selling your stake in the Genesis project? Mr. Collins. I held up a hand, and the room fell silent. I looked directly into the main camera. I knew she had to be watching. I took a deep breath. First, I need to clear something up. My name is Jay Collins, and I am not a business genius. I am not a titan of industry. I am just a normal guy who wanted a quiet life. I started my company with the intention of losing money. I invested in projects hoping they would fail. Everything I did was an attempt to run away from something I didn't want to face. A wave of confused murmurs washed over the room. The reporters looked at each other, certain they had misheard me. I ignored them and continued. But along the way, I met people, and things happened. They made me realize that some responsibilities can't be escaped. Genesis is the culmination of countless people's hard work. It belongs to this country, to this era. It is not my personal property to be sold. It is not for sale at any price. And effective today, I will be transferring my entire personal 51% stake in the Wing It Corporation free of charge to one person. I paused, looked straight into the camera, and said her name. Her name is Eleanor Vance. Without her, there would be no me, and there would be no Genesis. She is the true architect of all of this. Finally, I have one more thing I want to say to her. I managed a weak, pathetic smile. Eleanor, I've screwed up everything I've ever touched. The only thing I ever did right was meeting you. So now, the company is yours, the money is yours. I've got nothing left. So, will you take me too? The press conference was dead silent. Every reporter was looking at me like I had lost my mind. I dropped the microphone, turned my back on the flashing cameras, and walked off the stage. I didn't know where to go. I had given everything back to her. I was broke again, with nothing to my name. Maybe I should go back to that $500 a month room. That was where I really belonged. I wandered the streets like a ghost. A black Bentley pulled up silently beside me. The window rolled down, revealing Arthur's perpetually stoic face. Mr. Collins, get in. Where are we going? Home. The car sped through the city, eventually stopping in front of the estate. I hesitated. Was this still my home? I got out of the car. The massive gates swung open. Eleanor was standing there. She was back in her black suit, her hair pulled back, once again the untouchable Ice Queen. We stood there, separated by the long driveway, looking at each other. I saw the press conference, she said first, her voice unreadable. Yeah, you said you're giving the company to me? Yes. Leaving yourself with nothing? Yes. And you want me to take you? My face grew hot, but I forced myself to nod. She walked toward me, step by step. The click of her heels on the pavement was the only sound, each one landing like a hammer blow on my heart. She stopped right in front of me. Jake, do you think this is enough for me to forgive you? My heart sank. Do you think a few nice words and a grand, self-pitying gesture can erase the fact that you wavered? You're unbelievably naive. Her voice was as cold as stone. I gave a bitter laugh. I know. I wasn't expecting you to forgive me. I just wanted to set the record straight. I'll go now. I turned, ready to leave this place for good. A hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Hard. I looked back and met her red-rimmed eyes. You said you could leave. Her voice was laced with a familiar, overbearing tyranny. You. I accept the company, she interrupted. As for you. She paused, a sly, cunning smile playing on her lips. Since you now have no assets and no income, according to labor laws, as your new employer, I am obligated to provide you with room and board. So, starting today, you will live here. As for your job title, she tilted her head, thinking, you could be my personal assistant. The salary is $3,000 a month, room and board included. You'll be on call 24/7. Do you have any objections? I looked at the smile she could no longer hide, at the warmth in her eyes that was just for me. What objections could I possibly have? I turned my hand, lacing my fingers with hers, and pulled her in my arms, holding her tight. No objections. Boss. She laughed softly in my arms. It was the sound of ice melting in the spring. Epilogue. Late that night, in Eleanor's bedroom. After her shower, she sat on her bed and habitually opened the Guides Core Interface app. Emotional link. 100 max congratulations. Guide Alpha 001 and host Jake Collins have achieved a perfect link. Final system mission. Complete. Unlocking. Final reward. A progress bar appeared on the screen. Eleanor was curious. She had always assumed the app was just something she had created, that the missions and rewards were all self-imposed. What was the final reward? Even she didn't know. The progress bar filled. A video window popped up on the screen. In the video was a kind-faced, middle-aged man in a lab coat. He smiled at the camera. Ellie, if you're seeing this, it means you found someone who makes you feel safe enough to let your guard down. Your dad is so proud of you. Eleanor froze. The man in the video was her father, who had passed away years ago. This app, it's the last gift I could leave you. I know how independent and strong you've always been, how you carry everything on your own shoulders. I was so afraid that after I was gone, you would be all alone, so I designed this game. I hoped that in the process of searching for your host, you would learn how to love, how to depend on someone. As for your chosen one, Jake, well, I sort of chose him for you. He's the son of an old army buddy of mine. He has a good heart, even if he is a little lazy. I thought his personality would be the perfect balance for yours. All that money you gave him, it all came from the trust fund I left for you. So don't worry about it. Just think of it as a dowry for your future husband. All right, my mission is complete. Ellie, forget about the system, about the missions. Just go and love him, and live a good life. The video ended, and the screen went dark. Eleanor sat on the bed, stunned, as silent tears streamed down her face. So, none of it was fate. None of it was a grand mission. It was just a father's deep, clumsy love for his daughter. She wiped her tears and smiled. Just then, the bedroom door creaked open. Jake poked his head in. Hey, boss, you need a bed warmer? The $3,000 a month kind. Eleanor looked at him, her eyes curving into crescents as she smiled. Get in here, my host. End.